Paula Metzler on Penfield Town Court. What's my name, Paula Metzler? You know my name, Paula Metzler. My name is Christopher Chichester, and I have never committed a crime. And that fact is totally irrelevant to you as you sit there destroying lives underneath that wig in Penfield Town Court. Paula Metzler, you have had access to my healthcare records. There's no doubt about that fact. Because when I appeared in Penfield Town Court, you looked down at a piece of paper and you asked me a question. Paula Metzler, the answer to that question is only known by my mother, my father, and my ex-girlfriend. Anyone else that does know about it has not been told by me, because I've only told my mother, my father, and my ex-girlfriend. You know why, Paula Metzler? Because that's my privacy. I'm not going to violate my own privacy by talking about my life to people I don't know. You violate my privacy. Do you understand me, Paula Metzler? Paula Metzler. In 1996, my former employer, the United States House of Representatives and the United States Senate, passed the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. And you know why my former employer, the United States House of Representatives, the United States Senate, passed this legislation that was signed into law by President Bill Clinton? Is to protect the healthcare records of every single American citizen. And there you are, inside a library in Penfield Town Court with my healthcare records right in front of you, asking me a question, the answer to which I have only told my mother, my father, and my ex-girlfriend. How do you explain to the officials at the New York State Department of Health and the officials at the Federal Department of Health and Human Services that you have my healthcare information and records right there in front of you in Penfield Town Court inside the Penfield Public Library? How is that possibly explained, Paula Metzler? So, Paula Metzler, I'm going to ask you a question you refuse to answer. What's the name of the individual that provided you with my healthcare records? What's the name of the individual in the office of Sheriff Todd Baxter that provided you with my healthcare records? Because it is an individual in the sheriff's office. And this is what I'm going to tell the United States Department of Justice. And if you block me, you block me. I have multiple ways to reach you. And everything I say on YouTube, the transcript of which I'm going to put in the mail, registered mail return receipt, so you sign for it. Then when you sign for it, then I'm going to contact the New York State Department of Health and the Federal Department of Health and Human Services about you having access to my healthcare information. So I will repeat myself about things that need to be repeated, because I have done this on previous YouTubes, because corruption needs to have the truth hammered into you. Now, it's called HIPAA. I'm going to repeat this again. Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. On the Federal Department of Health and Human Services website, I'm going to read from it. I'm going to look different here as I read from it. Breach notification rule. Paula Metzler on Penfield Town Court. The HIPAA Breach Notification Rule 45 CFR Section 164400-414 requires HIPAA-covered entities and their business associates to provide notification following a breach of unsecured protected health information. Similar breach notification provisions implemented and enforced by the Federal Trade Commission apply to vendors of personal health records and their third-party service providers pursuant to Section 13407 of the High-Tech Act. You understand the breach notification rule that I just read? And I'm going to continue with another paragraph or two, depending on the languages I read it. You have breached federal law. You have breached my personal privacy with your hatred and your fanaticism and your corruption as you sit there as one person in a library destroying lives along with James Mully Jr. I continue with the breach notification. The link to this, what I'm reading to you, is attached in this email. Do you understand me, you bald-headed, wig-wearing criminal? Definition of breach. Quote, a breach is generally an impermissible use or disclosure under the privacy rule that compromises security and privacy of the protected health information. Impermissible use or disclosure of protected health information is assumed to be a breach unless the covered entity or business associate, as applicable, demonstrate that there is low probability that the protected health information has been compromised based on a risk assessment of at least the following factors. Do you understand what I just read there to you, Paula Metzler, about a breach? Do you understand that language, given your age? Because Paula Metzler, in this language, an impermissible use or disclosure of protected health information, impermissible use, for you to be sitting there with my health information is an impermissible use, Paula Metzler, disclosure of protected health information. My health information is protected under federal law, and there you are in Penfield Town Court with my health information. What do you not understand about this, Paula Metzler, that you have done to me? Why is my health of concern to you in Penfield Town Court? It's for humiliation purposes, and there's nothing wrong with my health. I'm 55 years old. I can run a 5K in 22 minutes, as I've done repeatedly over the last 4 years. I run every day. I bike every day, swim at the YMCA, go to Gold's Gym in Fairport. So, at 55 years of age, my shape is superior to the ordinary individual at 55 years of age. Yet, there you want my health insurance information. Why? Why did you have my health insurance information? Pardon me, my health care information. Why did you have my health care information in front of you, Paula Metzler, and who gave it to you? This is a breach of my privacy, Paula Metzler. And there are exceptions to a breach. There are 3 exceptions. I'm only going to read one. And you can read this whole thing. That's why I'm only going to read one. There are 3 exceptions to the definition of breach. The first exception applies to unintentional acquisition, access, or use of protected health information. That's not unintentional acquisition, Paula Metzler. You have an intentional acquisition of my health insurance information, my health care information. You're a criminal, Paula Metzler. And this is what I'm going to tell the United States Department of Justice. There's no reason for you to have information about the disposition of my health, the state of my health, the quality of my health, any previous health care right there in front of you, and there you have the information right there in front of you. So, Paula Metzler, these psychopaths in the Monroe County Sheriff's Office have been targeting me for 3 years. It's the parking lot next to my residence. You know what this parking lot is. You can walk through this parking lot without being arrested, Paula Metzler. Why is that? People in your life that you know, and who the hell would want to know you or be around you for 30 consecutive seconds can walk through this parking lot without being arrested? Now, that's my other question. Neeraj and Leila Kumar Shah. This is a 50-plus-year-old man living with a 70-plus-year-old mother. These people are going to you and telling you I should be arrested for walking through this parking lot. So this is also what I'm going to tell the department about. I'm going to tell, the United States Department of Justice and the Office of Andrew Cuomo, the Majority Leader Speaker in Albany, that these psychopaths, Neeraj and Leila Kumar Shah, are going to you, bald-headed, wig-wearing Paula Metzler on Penfield Town Court and demanding I be arrested for walking through this parking lot, but not anybody else. Not my excellent friend who lives next to me, not the elderly woman who lives across the street, not Penfield High School band students that walked through the parking lot after fireworks at Harris Whalen Park on June 30th, 2019. 200 people walked through that parking lot in the span of 15 minutes, including Penfield High School band students before the event. How come none of these people were arrested if that's a crime to walk through that parking lot? 200 people should have been arrested by Todd Baxter. Why can you, Paula Metzler, walk through this parking lot without being arrested? Why can my neighbor walk through this parking lot without being arrested? Why can the elderly woman across the street walk through this parking lot without being arrested? Why can Penfield High School band students walk through this parking lot without being arrested? Why can the 36,000 people in Penfield, New York walk through this parking lot without being arrested? Why can the 200,000 people in Monroe County walk through this parking lot without being arrested? Why can the 17.9 million people in the state of New York walk through this parking lot without being arrested? I'm the only person in the entire state of New York to be arrested for walking through this parking lot. How do you explain that to the United States Department of Justice, you bald-headed, wig-wearing criminal Paula Metzler? How is that explained? What is your contact with Neeraj and Leila Kumar Shah? I will tell the United States Department of Justice, the Office of Andrew Cuomo, the Speaker, Majority Leader in Albany, that these 2 psychopaths called you. Here you are. You're supposed to be impartial because I have seen them. When I was in one of my appearances, you were talking to them. You were talking to these 2 psychopaths. They going to you with these concocted charges about this parking lot And you don't dismiss them. So here these civilians are going to you, and you are in league, in concert with Nayraj and Layla Kumar Shah to violate my civil and constitutional rights. As the only person to be arrested for walking through this parking lot. This is the lunatic fringe. You're the lunatic fringe. So, how is it a crime, Paula Metzler, to come outside, stand right here, say nobody owns that land, and walk back in my residence? That's criminal contempt. Ludicrous. That's not a crime. As I've said repeatedly, I was on the bench press at this now defunct gym called PW Fitness. Up walks to me Jermaine Bentley, stands over me, punches down. My head snaps back violently. We go out to the car when Andrew Reale arrives. He knows me because of his parking line. He decides he's going to put the screws to me. He tells Jermaine Bentley exactly what to say. As I sit in the back seat of Andrew Reale's vehicle, he walks around to the side of the vehicle with Jermaine Bentley. Jermaine Bentley says to me, I want 2 press charges against you, and with those 7 ones, I'm charged with harassment second. Harassment second, well, I'm not harassing anyone. Being outside for 30 seconds, where it's criminal contempt, where it's neither criminal nor contempt. So, on August 30th, you were told to be in Penfield Town Court because I'm going to bring him in. This is another thing I'm going to tell the United States Department of Justice. You were told to be in Penfield Town Court to pronounce me guilty, and you didn't ask me one question when I made that appearance. These psychopaths that work with Todd Baxter were hiding in the bushes across the street from my residence on August 30th. They walked onto the private property of my 72-year-old neighbor. I leave the residence. They come running at me from across the street. I don't know what that is. I turn around and run alongside the residence. I go back up the residence. One of these psychopaths grabs my arm. The hammer I just grabbed goes up. I pull away. I run back into my residence. They went back to the Monroe County Sheriff's Office and concocted a felony for me. This is why I call them psychopaths. He said I swung a hammer at them. They were sitting right there in front of you, Paula Metzler, when I made that appearance. Before I was transferred where? I'm going to get to that momentarily. I've asked this for Todd Baxter's. What are the names? You know their names. These two concocted a felony for me on my back porch when I'm running away, lying about how I swung a hammer at one of them. Paula Metzler, pay attention underneath that fucking wig. If I wanted to swing a hammer at someone, I'll swing a hammer at someone. If I wanted to swing a hammer on a Monroe County Sheriff's Office employee that grabs my arm in the back porch, I would have brought that hammer down on his fascist stooge cranium, and I would have ended his career. And I didn't do that. I've never swung a hammer at anyone. I've never engaged in violence of any kind. How is that a felony on my back porch? They were sitting right there in front of them, and I'm demanding their names. And Todd Baxter's refusing to provide their names. These two concocted a felony for me. Do you, Paula Metzler, generate some enzymes there in that brain underneath that wig? Do you believe that I should have the right as a citizen to know the names of 2 officials in law enforcement who concocted a felony for me, who walked onto the private property of my neighbor? The answer to that question is yes. And Todd Baxter will refuse to tell me the names of these 2 employees. And you know the names because they were sitting right there in front of you. Isn't that right, Paula Metzler? And I bet you didn't ask them out one question that day. A felony? He committed a felony in his back porch because you wallow in ignorance. You want to wallow in ignorance. You and James P. Mully Jr. The facts don't matter. And the reason why you're refusing to provide me a list of defendants in Penfield Town Court is because everybody's guilty. And I've been demanding that. I'm looking for the foil here where you're obligated to provide me with the list of defendants. When I say obligated, Paula Metzler, I'm using the Freedom of Information Law document where I'm demanding a list of defendants in Penfield Town Court. And you're refusing to provide it to me. So I'm going to read one of them here that I sent to you on January 9th. Documentation for the case of Christopher Chichester with Paula Metzler from Penfield Town Court. What's the name of the prosecutor, Sandra Dorley? Total silence. How am I delivered to jail when the prosecutor doesn't talk? So that's the first name I'm demanding. The second name, documentation for the case of Christopher Chichester for John P. Metzler Jr. Penfield Town Court. What's the name of the prosecutor, Sandra Dorley? The reason why Sandra Dorley and Perry Duckles in the district attorney's office, you should know his name because he's the number 2, refused to provide me with the names. They didn't talk. Prosecutor didn't talk both times. That's why. Over and over and over, I'm demanding, using the Freedom of Information Law, over the last 2 months. Over and over and over, 10 plus times, using that same foil that I just read, 10 plus times they've received over the last 2 months. And they refused every time. Paula Metzler, James P. Mully Jr., how's it a crime to walk outside, stand around here, say nobody owns that land, and walk back in my house? How's that criminal contempt? Paula Metzler, James P. Mully Jr., has more hair than bald head would wear. Paula Metzler, who am I harassing? I will never come to Penfield Town Court. You understand me? Paula Metzler. Does not matter to me what the consequences are. Does not matter to me. I do not care. I'm not going to come in there, stand in front of you, and allow you to declare me guilty. And another reason why is here's your name with a search warrant that's not a search warrant. This is an unconstitutional document. This is another thing I'm going to tell the United States Department of Justice. I said this repeatedly now on YouTube. I'm trying to reach you. So when this eventually gets to your office and you sign for it, I'm going to tell the United States Department of Justice I was repeatedly attempting to reach Paula Metzler to tell her this information. So if you're going to be able to, you want to wallow in him to say, I didn't hear him make this accusation about me. I'm using multiple emails to get you, including on this YouTube right here. I'm creating new emails so you can't block a previous email. Do you understand what I'm telling you? I'm trying to reach you and communicate with you about the accusations I'm making that I'm going to tell the United States Department of Justice, that I'm going to tell the Office of Andrew Cuomo, that I'm going to tell the reporters and editors at the Democratic Chronicle. This is one of them. A search warrant that's not a search warrant. You type this vile, sickening, disgusting document in Penfield Town Court, handed it to Leah LaRoque, Todd Baxter's $91,000 criminal in the Monroe County Sheriff's Office. She contacted my landlord, Giuseppe and Nino Spano, and that gets Leah LaRoque in here. Wish she had to do it with my Chromebook. Leah, what did you find on my Chromebook? You found nothing. This is not a search warrant. You took a Chromebook out of in my residence, Leah LaRoque, with a search warrant. That's an unconstitutional document that Paula Metzler typed in Penfield Town Court. Isn't that right, Paula Metzler? You typed this nauseating, sickening, illegal document in your library courtroom in Penfield Town Court. There's no identifying marker on it. It just says search warrant. Proof by affidavit is another thing you're going to refuse to comply with. Where's the affidavit? Leah LaRoque. Where's the affidavit? Where is it? So you have a search warrant that's not a search warrant that you typed in Penfield Town Court. It says proof by affidavit. Where's the affidavit? If this affidavit exists, I'm going to try not to laugh when I read it. Does it exist, Leah LaRoque? You left your blue gloves behind, Leah. Why is that? You, Leah, have my running shoes in your hand. You picked them up, you threw them in front of you. What are you doing with my running shoes in your hand, Leah LaRoque? You know Paula Metzler? Have you heard of Miranda versus Arizona? Because I've never heard Miranda versus Arizona. This has been the law in the United States of America since 1966. This is arguably the most important Supreme Court decision of the 20th century. I've never heard it. How's Todd Baxter explain that? Now, this is a document I was looking for previously that's also attached again. I'm going to update this, but it has the language that requires you to comply with the language. And this is going to certify the United States Department of Justice, bald-headed, wig-wearing Paula Metzler and James Miller Jr., that everybody's guilty, and that's why you're refusing to comply with it. The name, charge, and sentence of every defendant in Penfield Town Court for John P. Metzler Jr., James Miller Jr., and Paula Metzler. I'm going to repeat that. The name, charge, and sentence of every defendant in Penfield Town Court for John P. Metzler Jr., James Miller Jr., and Paula Metzler. That was sent to you on December 16th. Now, you also received it on December 17th. 2, December 18th, 3, December 26th, 4, December 27th, 5, December 28th, 6, December 29th, 7th, December 30th, 8, January 2nd, 9, January 3rd, 10, January 5th, 11, January 6th, 12. 12 times. 12 times. These are 12 Freedom of Information Law documents. They're all attached. Pick one of the 12 and comply with one of the 12. 12 times. I'm going to read that again. Corruption needs to have the truth hammered into it. Fascism needs to have the truth hammered into it. The name, charge, and sentence of every defendant in Penfield Town Court for John P. Metzler Jr., James Miller Jr., and Paula Metzler. What's life going to be like for you, bald-headed, wig-wearing Paula Metzler, James Miller Jr., when the United States Department of Justice looks at a list of defendants? Because you can refuse me, you can't refuse employees of the United States Department of Justice. When they look at a list of defendants and it's guilty every single time. And the other thing that is a disgusting reality for you, Paula Metzler, there's no concern whatsoever as to why I'm in there. The facts, the circumstances, you're there to pronounce people guilty. Why is it that you haven't even asked me? Why are you here? Explain. Harassment, second, criminal contempt. Did you really swing a hammer at someone on your back porch? That was what I was told. Were you told that? Were you told I swung a hammer at a Monroe County Sheriff's Office employee on my back porch? Do we even know that? I won't be surprised if you don't know anything because you want to wallow in ignorance. That's what you want to do. Paula Metzler, does a prosecutor talk in court? It's a list of salaries for the district attorney's office that I've acquired. And this is one of the reasons why they're concocting criminal charges for me. I read the list of these salaries. So we have assistant district attorney positions here. And right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 employees make $100,000 or more here. Now, these are assistant district attorneys that talk in court, Paula Metzler. I guarantee it that these public employees, when they go into a courtroom anywhere in Monroe County, each one of them talks. Prosecutor didn't talk in court. Both times I was in there, John P. Metzler Jr. and you, Paula Metzler. Why is that? The second time, there isn't an employee from the district attorney's office, and you imposed that bench trial upon me for the purpose of declaring me guilty. You already knew before you came in to your little library courtroom that day that you were going to declare me guilty on August 30th. How do you explain that you're imposing a bench trial on me and there is no assistant district attorney? I want to be clear on what I'm saying. It's for the accuracy on what I'm saying. The first time I appeared in Penfield Town Court for John P. Metzler Jr., it was a female assistant district attorney. She didn't talk. The second time, there was not an assistant district attorney there when you imposed a bench trial upon me. But the reason why I included that Freedom of Information Law document is that since I have a case, I want to know the prosecutor that has my case the second time before you. That's the purpose of that Freedom of Information Law document. So the first time there was a prosecutor, female, didn't talk. Second time the prosecutor is not there. Do you understand me? No. I need to clarify this again. The second time, there was an assistant district attorney from the Monroe County District Attorney's Office who's about 5 foot 2 inches, wears a 3-piece suit. He handed you a piece of paper, and that delivers me to Livingston County Jail. So I need to clarify this again. First time was a female, didn't talk. Second time was a male. He handed you a piece of paper, and that delivers me to jail. Both times I didn't talk. I want to be clear about this. I have a lot of information around here and things I'm looking at. Sometimes I'm not perfect, but I want to be accurate in everything I say on YouTube. So do you understand what I just told you, given your age, Paula Metzler? Both times, the assistant district attorney employee at the Monroe County District Attorney's Office did not talk when I was in Penfield Town Court. And yet I'm delivered to jail. And you, Paula Metzler, don't even ask me about the facts and circumstances and why I'm a defendant in Penfield Town Court. And why I'm a defendant in Penfield Town Court, it says County of Monroe right here. I'm walking over on August 30th to Canandaigua National Bank, and I had $21.39. I've said this repeatedly. I withdraw $40, brings it up to $61.39. I walk back down Penfield Road and make a right on Sanders Farm Drive, a left on Willow Pond Way. I walk in front of Wegmans. 5 Monroe County Sheriff Office vehicles converged upon me. 11 employees. One of them ran out of his vehicle at me, lowered his shoulder, knocked me down. My head slammed against the concrete pavement, and I had to go get an MRI. It says right here, your imaging is normal. I'm in the MRI tube. I can still feel from my head slammed against the concrete, and then I'm taken to you, and you declare me guilty, and I'm where? Where did I go, Paula Metzler? This is in this YouTube that is now at 23 minutes. This is the information that concerns me the most as far as your criminal presence on Penfield Town Court, Paula Metzler. I've lived in Monroe County for 9 years, first in Webster with my ex-girlfriend, Laura Riley, and then when Laura and I moved to Penfield. Guess why, Paula Metzler? Because Laura was hired at the Penfield Public Library. So I've lived here for 9 years. Why wasn't I in Monroe County Jail? And I would be in Monroe County Jail as an innocent man. So I'm in Livingston County Jail as an innocent man. Why wasn't I in Monroe County? What am I doing in Livingston County? Did you make that decision, Paula Metzler? Did Sheriff Todd Baxter make that decision? Or someone in the Monroe County Sheriff's Office? Did District Attorney Sandra Dorley make that decision? Or someone in the District Attorney's Office? How do you explain to the United States Department of Justice that I've lived in Monroe County for 9 years and there I am out in the middle of nowhere in Livingston County, and I'm told, read that previous YouTube, the judge is holding you? That's what my public defender, Regina Harper, told me. How is that constitutional for you to be holding me in jail? For what? I'm not going to say it here. You're holding me in jail. And then they have a kiosk where every day I'm going up to it, I have to send messages through the kiosk to talk to jail employees. And I'm saying every single day, 2 times a day, 3 times a day, 4 times a day, 5 times a day. It was one time I did it 10 times. How long am I going to be here? I'm not told. One time I went to that kiosk at least 10 times. It was 10 plus times. And I have to type on it with 2 fingers. And I'm saying how long I'm not told. How is that possibly explained that I'm not told? How? Explain it. Click apply and explain it. I'm not told how long I'm going to be in Livingston County Jail. You are a vile, disgusting, sick woman, Paula Metzler. Where's your morality? Where's your decency? Where's your ethics? You don't have no morality. You don't have no decency. You don't have no ethics. Everybody's guilty. And you love being up there, destroying lives, pronouncing people guilty without even knowing the facts. My neighbor had appeared before John P. Lomenzo Jr., and he's also my friend. And he uses language to describe John P. Lomenzo Jr. that is ferocious. That's the hatred that he has for John P. Lomenzo Jr. You know why? It's a simple reason. And the reason applies to you, Paul Metzler, and you, James P. Mully Jr. There's no interest in why a defendant is in Penfield Town Court. There's no interest whatsoever. Guilty, 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 guilty. Every single time. How do you explain that to the United States Department of Justice? I'm going to write 1,000+ words on how you sit up there with your courtroom presence and there is total indifference just about your demeanor. I'm going to write 1,000 words and how you are in there, because I'm looking at you and I have a nauseousness looking at you, at your total indifference to how you're destroying lives, just on your demeanor and how you behave. I'm going to write about, because I'm going to have between 500 and 1,000 documents. And that's going to be one of the documents, just on your courtroom demeanor and how you behave. It's total indifference. Hatred is defined by total indifference. So, now, tell me the names of those 2 prosecutors. Prosecutor doesn't talk in court. I haven't heard Miranda. This is a search warrant. That's not a search warrant. This is the list of every employee at the Monroe County District Attorney's Office. Not one of them talked. This is the check that certifies I was attacked and then deposited in Penfield Town Court when you had a bench trial upon me. What's your contact, Paula Metzler, with Lee LaRoque at the Monroe County Sheriff's Office? Because she's the one that came in here with this document you typed right here. That's not a search warrant. You spoke to Lee LaRoque. What was your conversation with her? You called her at the Monroe County Sheriff's Office. You, Paula Metzler, said, I want you to go into Chris Chichester's residence, 26 Sanders Farm Drive. You handed her this search warrant. That's not a search warrant. She contacted Giuseppe Nino Spano. My landlord gets Lee LaRoque in here. She left my Chromebook. So, you, Paula Metzler, are a criminal. My name is Christopher Chichester. I have never committed a crime.